Hello, welcome to this week's video.
Another one. How lucky are we? I mean, how lucky are you?
So thanks to the storms,
Not a lot has been done.
we're having a bit of a throwback. So we started off a part one, didn't we? I think it was the second video we did, if you look back through our content, was our trip from buying the boat over at Venetia Marina and the start of the trip cruising it over to Sheffield Marina, Tinsley. So we did part one, like I say, last year, and this is finally part two.
Lots to deal with. Yes, it's
It was a steep learning curve, wasn't it?
it still is, but it's probably best that you turn around and watch it, and we'll play catch up later with the conclusion.
So it's from New Islington Marina in Manchester, up across Rochdale Canal, up over the summit, down to Chall Lane Lock.
You remember that well.
I did, didn't I? We had issues with a lock not filling on the way. We had first guillotine lock we did.
Oh
and
yeah.
Someone fell in, didn't they?
No. Was that the dog?
So yeah, quite a lot happened. So we'll cover it as best we can. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you at the end.
We'll play conclusions. See you in a bit.
So our first challenge was the right hand bend coming out of New Islington Marina, wasn't it, under the footbridge?
Really tight it is.
Very difficult. And then our second challenge was when we got to the Liddles at lock 69.
She
We left
put me
you
in a
in
lock.
it. Left you in it to go into Liddles whilst it filled. We came out and you were still sat in the bottom. CRT came to our rescue, didn't they?
Yeah.
And told us not to stop until we got to Tesco's, which was further along at Bridge 79 and more there.
We arrived in the dark and we turned round and had our first meeting with children with stones being thrown at us. And the following morning we met the shopping trolleys underneath us.
Then we got to Durn services, which were interesting looking services, but we managed to fill up with water and empty the Elson, and then we finally managed to get towards some countryside, and the scenery got nicer, although it was very cold and crisp and some of the lock gates were very heavy. So now we were finally heading up towards the summit at the top of the Rochdale Canal. Whilst we were making this trip, I was also marathon training, so on a lot of the days I was doing my long runs alongside the canal and doing the locks at the same time, so I could get my training in. There was a nice mooring at the summit by the pub, so we stopped there overnight, went into the summit pub, had some nice food, and then headed off again the next morning. Did the final summit lock, which is number 37, and then started heading back down the other side of the flight. And the scenery was absolutely beautiful, but here's just some pictures of the actual summit, and it's the top of the summit, lock 37. There was a few buildings there. I think there were some chickens in one of the gardens, and then out into the beautiful countryside. And to me, this was what getting the boat was about, was being out in the lovely countryside and not doing battle with water levels in the town centres when locks had lovingly been messed about with overnight on Saturday nights, which was one of the problems that we had. It was November, it was absolutely freezing, but it was also absolutely stunning, and the colours were absolutely beautiful. So this is the second highest summit on the network. The highest one isn't that far away, it's at Huddersfield Narrow Canal.
So after the summit we worked our way down. Being a Yorkshire lad and a Lancashire lad mixed together, we hit the boundary. I'm not sure what I quite made of that, but worked our way, cruising nice and slowly, seeing the beautiful countryside, and stopped at Walsden. So at Walsden we left the boat for a week, and as you can see it was nice and crisp and frosty, and when we came back with a sofa.
When we left Walsden the following week, we headed down to Goxholm Lock and Goxholm Bridge, which is a 180-year-old iron viaduct. Absolutely stunning piece of architecture and building. If you just think about the lack of tools they had in those days to build, it was absolutely amazing.
So there you go, we travelled down and saw this nice big wall carrying the Manchester to Leeds Railway on our way to Todmorden, and maybe this was where I fell in.
Oh, I think it was.
So completed in 1881, and with about 4 million bricks, it's just a small feat of engineering, really.
Then we stopped at the services at Todmorden, did the obligatories that we needed to do, filled up with water again, emptied the Elson, and then we headed towards Hebden Bridge and our first guillotine lock.
So once out of Todmorden, down to Hebden Bridge, the historic Hebden Bridge, saw the boat club, and wanted to get ourselves to Sowerby Bridge and through the tunnels before the end of the weekend.
But unfortunately we didn't know, did we? We needed to pre-book it.
No.
So we ended up having to moor the other side of the Tool Lane lock and then wait until the end of the following week when we could get CRT to come and help us through it. It was very daunting, wasn't it? It was absolutely huge.
Nice experience, though.
Yeah, so this is the deepest narrow lock in the country, which is why you have to have CRT to help you through it, because obviously if you don't know what you're doing, it can be quite dangerous.
Well, we ended up on the boat and the actual CRT bloke just sorted us out.
Yeah, and then there's the these are pictures of how deep the lock is. It's got an absolutely huge sill, which you can see there. And then the lock gates are quite daunting themselves. And then once you come out of the lock, you go into the tunnel, don't you, which goes under the main road.
Yep.
Through Sowerby Bridge. It's only quite a short tunnel, just under a road, like we say. And then come out the other side. Quite a picturesque bridge, brick-faced as you come out the other side. And then head down through a couple of locks to Sowerby Lock 1.
Yeah.
And then there's a services there as well. So we used the services, filled up with diesel and bought some gas before we carried on. And then we joined the Calder and Hebble navigation, as you can see, the sign there, and headed towards Salter Hebble locks, where we had another learning experience, didn't we? Because the lock mechanism didn't need a windlass, did it?
No, it was need a piece of 4x2 for that, but nobody told us.
Luckily, the man that lived in the house there did have a piece he gave us, so we managed to shave the end and use it to operate the lock. It was a very short lock, wasn't it?
Yeah, it had some moorings with it all.
It did, but we had to go diagonal to fit in the lock. And then there were some moorings in between these two locks here, but we didn't stop there. We carried on, didn't we? And then there was another guillotine lock at the end.
Yeah.
So you need your CRT key to operate the guillotine locks, and the operation is reasonably straightforward and has lights which tell you what to do, similar to the electric locks you come across on other parts of the network. We then headed towards Brighouse, didn't we, into the top lock there before getting on to the River Calder.
Yep. So as we were heading towards Christmas, the Christmas tree came about and our first joint bauble.
And then, quite apt with the weather we've been having recently, we got stranded at Shepley Bridge, didn't we, for 3 weeks?
Yeah.
The water levels weren't like this when we got there. They were well into the red, and we had to wait for them to go back down before we could head out onto the River Calder and towards Wakefield.
Yeah. So we spent about 3 weeks at Shepley Bridge due to the water levels, and we got our new inverter sorted.
Because of the time of year, it was very unusual to see other boats, so that was quite a rare sight. And then we did have some beautiful sunrises and sunsets as well. So there we are. That was part 2 of our adventure and our learning curves, wasn't it?
Oh, very much so. Very much big learning, yes.
So yes, different types of keys for different locks, different mechanisms. We will do a video entirely on that as well, because I think that'll be helpful.
Peter's a 4B2.
Yeah, Peter's a 4B2. There's different keys, like I say, different mechanisms as well. What else did we come across?
Inverters, water.
Yeah, the inverter blew up, which again, our inverter's not working now.
How to swim.
Yeah, you're falling in.
Yeah.
And the water levels, like we say, quite apt, as we've just had all the storms, Dudley, Eunice and Franklin now, and the storms did affect our travelling then. So things do repeat themselves, don't they?
They do, don't they?
Yeah. So anyway, we leave you heading towards Wakefield. When we get round to doing part 3, that's where we'll pick up again. But we've probably got a couple of other videos we'll do in the meantime, and maybe do that in a few weeks' time.
Probably when we get stuck with another storm.
Before we go up to Thorn and black the boat in April, which is only 5 weeks away now, not long to wait. And we can get moving properly, and we'll have lots more new content then as well, because at the moment it's been a bit hit and miss, hasn't it?
Well, it's not so much hit and miss, is it? It's similar sites and trying to come up with something new. That's the hard part.
Can only do so many videos on the same piece of canal. We know it like the back of our hands now, and if you follow our videos, then you probably do as well. So it'd be nice to get on some new canal and get some new content, won't it?
Yeah.
Go and do Conisbrough Castle, Spotsborough, Doncaster, all on the way to Thorn. So there's a few to start with.
Just time to get a seat that we're seasick.
And hopefully get the paddleboard out too.
Shh, don't tell them we've got one of them.
Got to have some playtime as well. Anyway, until next week, please, if you've got any comments, leave them below and we will reply when we can. And don't forget to like and subscribe and help us grow the channel. See you soon.
You know you want to. Bye.